Greetings, greetings, greetings. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another of the JN Thrive Together live classes. I'm excited to be here this evening, and I'm sure many of you are too. We've been anticipating this particular episode for a while, and it's finally here. Firstly, I am your host, Kamala McWhinney. I am an associate clinical psychologist, a relationship coach, and a wellness consultant. And this evening, I'm joined by a stellar lineup of panelists, and I'll introduce them to you very soon. But first, a couple of housekeeping matters. We're able to see the slides, I take it? Yes? Okay, great. So firstly, we are here to make this a very interactive session, the one that's going to be very, conversational and one that flows very nicely. And we want to introduce you to a couple features of the platform that we're using. We want to highlight the attention on the chat feature, which is where you can just drop how you're feeling, what your thoughts are about what the panelists are saying, what kind of truth bomb they're dropping on you tonight. And we also have the raise hand feature, which is where you can identify to us that you want to say something or you have a question to ask. You won't be able to take everyone's questions, but of course, as many as we can, we'll take them this evening. And then we also have the Q&A box on your screen. That is where you can drop questions that our panelists will be so gracious to answer, as many again as is possible for this evening. All right. So who are we talking to this evening? You know me already. I'm the CEO also of White Lotus Bloom's Wellness Services. And we are joined by Deidre-Ann Thompson. She is a blogger and she enjoys talking about life, motherhood, and fashion because she's fabulous like that. Thank you so much for joining us, Deidre. We also have Mr. Stefan Campbell. He's a communications consultant and he is the co-host of a very radical truth-speaking space called Men's Truth Podcast. So check them out whenever you jump off this session this evening. And we would not be the same if we were not joined this evening by the inimitable Dr. Karen Carpenter. She's a clinical sexologist, host of the Love and Sex program. And additionally, Dr. Carpenter is the acting head of the Institute for Gender and Development Studies at the UE. She lectures there also. She is a Florida board certified clinical sexologist, and she also operates the Caribbean Sexuality Research Group Clinic at the University Hospital of the West Indies. So as I mentioned here, I'm sure you agree with me now that the lineup is stellar, and we're going to jump right into it. Let me also bring your attention to the poll, which we have running right now, so that you can give us an idea of how you're feeling this evening, what is your mood, what you're hoping to get from the session. So you can just complete that. And then at the end of the session, we are going to be sharing the results that you provided, okay? So I think that's all housekeeping matters out of the way. Let me allow each of our panelists to say good evening. Let me start with Dr. Carpenter. Let's hear your voice, Doc.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Doc, I think you're muted.
No?
No, you're not. Okay, we're good. All right.
Are you able to hear me just now?
Yes.
Excellent.
There's something, Deidre-Ann, I could hear you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Kamala. Looking forward to the discussions. Promise that it is going to be very enlightening, very exciting.
Absolutely, I agree. And Stefan Campbell, the sole male among the two ladies this evening. Say something, I could hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Kamala, for allowing this to happen. I'm going to speak some truth this evening. Love it or hate it. So I hope everybody buckle up.
And with no further ado, let us jump right into the first segment. Before I jump there though, let me just remind everybody that we have giveaways because this is the JN Circle Thrive Together live class. And one of our hashtags is JN Cares. So definitely we have something to show you how much we care. So we have some credit for those who have Digicel and Flow telephones. And we have a very special giveaway from my company towards the end. So stay until the end and it's going to be even more epic. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something now. Whitney says she's buckled and ready for the session. And Sherry-Ann says, Mr. Broadback. Yeah, so we're ready. All right. So, the reason I think this topic is even relevant, Doc, Deidre, and Stefan, is because for me, as a coach and a therapist, I hear too many reports from the men, increasingly from the men, and from the women about, listen, oh, the man, them so wicked, them do this and that and the other, and the women are saying, you know, how, like, I don't get it. I don't understand why somebody would do this or not do this. On the flip side now, have you guys ever seen this meme where they have this everlasting, the big book, and they claim that that is the book to help you to understand women? So it's been an ongoing joke for centuries or decades about the fact that, yo, you can't figure out this species. You understand? And so that's why the JN group, in collaboration with myself, are very interested this evening to really see if we can crack the man code and crack the woman code. So ideally, when you finish this evening, you should have a better understanding of how the men work and how the women work. As a general disclaimer, none of us here can speak for everybody in the masculine or feminine, right? So just bear that in mind. We are having a conversation with 3 panelists, and as much as possible, we're going to use our qualifiers of some, most, many, but we can't say all. All right, that's fair enough? Let's start off now. First segment, I want to jump into it. Stefan, what do men want? Since you come out strong, you can't cry early in the session, right?
Well, as you rightly said, I can't speak for all men, but there are some similarities. And one of the similarities I've found is that men want peace. Now, usually when we say we want peace, some men really mean quiet. They just can't take no ningy or whatever. But peace essentially means that you are the person I can come to speak about anything without fear of judgment, without fear of ridicule, without me having to worry about overthinking. I wonder what she thinks about that, or how could you feel like that, and all of those things. Or for example, I come home late from work and you're asking me a question, but you've already formulated the answer. So you're not really asking me a question to find out. Those things upset a man's peace. So that's one thing that a man definitely wants, right? And as a matter of fact, on a lot of men, that's higher on their list than physical attraction. Being able to come home to somebody that comforts them or makes them feel comfortable. Essentially, the embodiment of a safe space.
Wow. I see Deidre laughing. I see Dr. Carpenter looking up into the sky for a wonderful home. So I know some very interesting rebuttals, perhaps, or responses, are coming. So let me go over to Dr. Carpenter, and then I will get Deidre's reason for why she's laughing, right? So Doc, let me ask you something now. How different, theoretically speaking, right? Because you have written several books, right, on sexuality and culture and the intersection of those, etc. What really can we say for the differences between men and women? Is it as wide a difference as we think? And if so, why or why not?
Okay, so to begin with, the biological differences between men and women are not as great as we would imagine. Because if we think of ourselves as a chemistry set, and I like to say that the human body is one big chemistry set, then we have inside us both male and female hormones. All of us do. Mm-hmm. And as we mature and we go through life, our male hormones in men decrease, mm-hmm. our female hormones in women decrease, and as men and women grow older, they actually are much more alike. So we're more alike at the beginning of life, before we become adolescents, teenagers, and we're more alike towards the end of life when we're no longer having children. So that shows you that at both ends of the continuum, men and women are much more alike. So what happens in the middle that makes us so much apart? And that's socialization. Different cultures socialize men and women differently, to behave differently, to be treated differently, and to get different rewards for that behavior. And if you don't behave in the way the society that you're in says, then you are not considered to be manly or womanly, masculine or feminine.
Mm-hmm. So Dr. Carpenter, you and Stefan have started us off on a very deep reflection already. But before I get Deidre's comments, I'd like to bring your attention to the results of our poll this evening. So our first question says, how would you describe your current mood? 58% of you are in the middle. You're saying, okay. We have nobody saying that they're sad, which is something we're grateful for. 20% of you say stressed, 20% are happy, and 2%, one of you is ecstatic. That's awesome. On the matter of how you feel about your future, 45% of you say you're feeling good about your future sometimes. That's pretty hopeful. 53% of you outrightly say yes, you're feeling good, and 2% of you are saying not so much right now. And we hope to change that as we go through our session this evening, and definitely throughout the series. The third question, what am I expecting from this class? 62%, Doc, I'm not surprised at all, came today to have a better understanding of the opposite sex. 24% came specifically for advice, so you want coaching, and 15% say coping and self-care tips. The question of I think I understand men or women, whatever that is, 75% of you say only sometimes. 9% say, yeah man, I have this lot. And 16% say, no. I'm curious to hear the panelists' views, but I soon come to that, right? I wonder if Doc Deidre and Stefan have achieved mastery. On question 5, I feel that my partner, specifically if you're in a relationship, I feel that my partner understands me. This one should be interesting. So 38% of you say you have no partner. 7% of you say yes. 16% say no, and 38% say sometime. Lord have mercy. So hopefully as we go through, we will be able to improve those numbers, right? I understand my partner. 45% of you say sometimes. Let me go back down. 40% has no partner, and 5% of you say, no, I do not understand my partner. Only 9% says, yes, I understand my partner. I'd be so interested to see the gender breakdown of this, right? To see if more men are saying, yo, I don't get it at all, or more women are scratching their heads and say, look here, the code bigger than me, right? Let me just jump over to Deidre now. Deidre, Doc spoke about socialization. Stefan spoke about peace. On the matter of socialization, you're a mom. Can you reflect on your upbringing, Deidre, and tell us if you agree in terms of how vastly different we socialize our girls and our boys, especially for you being the mother of a young girl, right? Do you think there's truth to this observation? And do you find yourself sometimes in mothering your daughter, kind of looking at yourself like, this is real, this has implications?
Right. Definitely there were differences in terms of how my brother and I were raised. I guess it stems from my parents passing down whatever it is that they heard, and that generational thing. So my mom said, you need to make sure that you learn how to cook and clean and wash and whatever, because you don't want to get married and the man takes spoon and beat you because you don't know how to do this and you don't know how to do that. So that has been ingrained in me, and then I find myself sometimes subconsciously kind of saying it to my daughter, like, you need to come and watch me in the kitchen, you need to come and do a little chore here and there, because you don't want them grow up buffer, and you don't want her to grow up in a way where people can take advantage of her, because you find that a lot of adults they grow older and they are not able to do certain basic things for themselves, and that has its own implications and its own challenges. But I find that even in my home, my not to throw my parents under the bus, but I found that a lot of times most of the chores and all of that were for me to do, whereas my brother is 10 years younger, but separate apart from that, so he was babied, and I was, because I was old and I was a female, and I am a female, I was given more of the tasks and the responsibilities and stuff like that, and I kind of find myself doing that for my daughter as well. I don't know if I had a son, if I would, I really don't know. Because as women and as nurturers, we kind of want to baby them, especially for single mothers, like myself, we'll find that, sometimes we kind of want to baby them, and it's okay, I'll do this, I'll do that, and whatever, and then you kind of handicap them, so yeah.
The balance is real, the balance is real, and the socialization piece is real, yeah? I came across this research that was done where they highlight the different love needs. So men have certain love needs according to this particular article. and women have certain love needs. I tend to agree with some of them, and I want to share just a couple of them with you to get the panelists' feedback, yeah? So it is said that women's love needs include feeling loved, feeling safe, that's a big word for women, right? Feeling seen, being allowed to be nurturing, as Deidre just hinted at, feeling sexually desired, feeling appreciated, and feeling like she can count on her partner. Any of those sound like a thing? Just nod and smile. Just say yes. So we soon come back. We soon come to you. But then, according to this particular author slash researcher, the love needs include praise and approval at the top of the list. Stefan, I'm looking at you. So keep a poker face, right? Respect. I hear so many men talk about how important respect is to them. Sexual connection. And interestingly, I guess on the other hand, is also non-sexual physical touching, which I don't think many people quite understand and appreciate, that men also want to feel, nurtured and physically stimulated outside of the sexual space as well. Emotional intimacy, which sometimes some women are like, really, they want that? Security, another important one is space, okay? So, Doc, you were shaking your head, so I'm coming right over to you first, and then we'll jump into the chat to hear some of what our audience is saying. What you're saying now, Doc, or what you're not saying?
Well, I'm saying that I think the two sets of attributes that you just mentioned, the things that you mentioned for men and for women, I think both men and women want those things. I don't think the differences are as acute as we try to make them, although society does demand in certain circles that we behave in certain public ways. I think in private, men and women want the same things, don't realize that they want the same things, and therefore don't give each other the same things.
That's a piece of it. Let me raise my paddle in support of that point, Doc. 199% tambourine on that one, right? Absolutely correct. That part, Doc, about the fact that we don't know in many cases what we want to start off. And so there's a whole lot of just the socialization filter on our conversations and on our, our interactions. Stefan's hand has gone up. What say you, sir?
Well, I'm agreeing with Dr. Carpenter, but in addition to that, sometimes we know what we want, but then there's this thought that we don't think the person would want what we want, right? And so there is the reality and there is the illusion. And most people are living in these two worlds in one relationship.
Yes.
The reality in their heads and the illusion of a relationship. So they are unhappy not being able to be themselves, but to the other person, because they think this is what the other person wants, they project that, right? And that's why people exist in relationships for so long and be surprised when they go to someone like Dr. Carpenter and wonder, how did I never know this? We've been together for 5 years. Why am I just finding out about it? Because I think society embraces the illusion of a relationship instead of a real relationship.
And if I might jump back in, Kamala.
Sure.
The other thing is that we are not the same with everyone. So Steffon is quite right. When that person comes into therapy with myself or yourself, and they discover all of these unseens about their partner, what they don't recognize is that their partner is that way with someone else.
Very true.
They may not see it, but the partner displays those parts of themselves to someone else. And that's actually one of the main reasons why people cheat. It's not the sex. It's because they want to be somebody different. They want to express that part of themselves that's not expressed in that illusion that Steffon spoke about and that real life.
Before I jump into the comments, I just want to hear from the two women on the panel. What, for the men who are listening, for the men who drove fast from work to come and log into the JN Live class series to crack the code, Dr. Carpenter, Deidre, let me start with Deidre.
Deidre, yes.
What the woman then want? Please, spell it out.
All right, so I'll speak for myself. I can't speak for all. Because I am so open and vulnerable and honest, that is something that I look for in a partner. I don't like to feel like I am trying to pull teeth or trying to dig, and then, you know, I would feel like I'm nagging. So for me, once I show my openness and my authenticity, then I guess I automatically expect you to reciprocate. So I look for that. I look for communication. Like, I love words. So I look for somebody who is, you know, like, not necessarily even gifted with words, but for you to be able to effectively communicate, because, you know, we are talkers, we're communicators, and we like to express ourselves and, you know, that kind of thing. So we want to have somebody there who is listening, you know, not just hearing, but actually listening, you know, active listening and engaging, you know, remembering the little things. You know, I might say something seemingly randomly, and, you know, you remember 5 months down the line, I'm like, you know. So we like, well, I like those kind of things. You know, affection, and just, you know, it doesn't have it doesn't have to be sexual, you know, for everybody. You know, once we find that, you know, you can just be around us and we can just feel that safety, as, you know, was expressed earlier, we like that kind of thing. We like to feel protected, we like to feel provided for. You know, it doesn't have to be financial all the time, but, you know, that sense of just knowing that if I have a need, you're able to step in and to just fill that need. Yeah, that peace of mind as well, to just know that I don't have to worry about you. You know, I don't have to worry that if you say that you're going X place, I don't have to worry that you're going Y place. You know, those are some of the things. Let me not say anything else before they start up in my DMs.
Listen, Dr. Carpenter, please add your piece to it for me, please, and thank you.
Repeat the question that you want.
Yes, so what do women want?
Oh gosh. Well, let me say that I agree with Stefan that there's more than one side to any woman, yeah? And I phrase it as public and private. That when we're in groups, when we're in public space, when we're in our social groups, church, work, etc., we tend to groupthink. And so if the group says this is what a woman should want, we raise our hands, right? When we're in private, we may have other needs. And I think human beings, male and female, have the same needs. What women have been trained to want is somewhat of an impossibility, because they want James Bond.
Listen to me now, Dr. Carpenter. Let me get my life together.
They want him to do diapers, and James Bond doesn't have any yard clothes. Yes, he don't have no shorts. He don't have no lawnmower. He never have a clippers in his hand. He's always shooting people and running around with girls. So they want a man who delivers on the daddy promise, the lover promise, the friend promise, the I can be all things to you. And so we've encouraged a kind of emotional neediness in women once they begin to come into the school age and leave that school age, which is neither healthy nor does it make for great relationships. So we set women up for wanting things that no human being, not even daddy, gave that to you. And we have great imaginations about our parents' relationship, you know. Everybody's parents had the most fantastic relationships. But if you want a man like daddy, then you have to be a woman like mommy. And you don't know what mommy went through. Because there's a Jamaican saying that says, when two people put their heads on a pillow at night, nobody knows them business. Yes? So what mommy and daddy showed you was their parenting self.
Facade.
Their lover self or their relational self was hidden from you. So you couldn't possibly want a man like daddy because you don't know your father in that intimate way. So we've been told that this man who comes into your life is going to rescue you from all evil, and he's going to be gentle, tender, look great all the time, smell good all the time, and want to listen to your every word. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Dr. Carpenter, that's not what I was expecting in the answer.
I know. I think you have to be a lot more realistic. I think we have to be a lot more realistic about what any human being can give us.
All right, thank you so much, panelists. Let us jump into the chats because we've been chatting off our mouths in here, and people have been chatting off, their fingers in the comment section. So L. Williamson says, I hear the thing about peace, and that's for you, Mr. Campbell. But honestly, can he expect a woman to remain calm like a pond when his behavior implies selfish, insensitive, seemingly uncaring / disrespectful, etc. traits? Women know a lot of men default into that kind of behavior.
Should I respond now or after?
Yeah, let me take a couple more. So let's make a mental note, Stefan. I really want to go with that one. Shafe says, which is why it should be done across the board. Boys and girls should be taught to do the chores. What if the man is alone? So I definitely agree that the ideal is for human beings to learn how to take care of themselves, to be self-sufficient. Do you eat food? If you know how to cook. Do you cook? If you know how to wash plate. Do you wear clothes? If you know how to do laundry. Ideally, okay? So that's Shafe's point. Karen says, yes, interesting clarity, Dr. Karen, as always. Stacy, hi Stacy. She says socialization definitely plays a major role. My sisters and I were held to a different standard than our brother. I think all of us who have siblings can attest to that. Karim, hi Karim. He says money. I think that was probably the answer to the question.
That's the answer.
Or what do men want? Clarify for me, Karim. I'm seeing another comment here, and I think all of the first name. A partner might mention it, but the other partner shuts it down. And we come into the communication piece in a few minutes, so we soon come back to this one. Shafe adds that what she wants, attention, affection, consistency, and communication. Z982, men definitely need to feel respected in a relationship, and we also expect faithfulness from our partners. Interesting. Christoph says, women want responsible men. Men want women who won't nag, who can uplift them, grow old with them, and remain loyal too. And many agreements for Dr. Carpenter. Brian says, hi Brian, Doc is firing on all cylinders from she start till now on both genders. Bomb, encouraging neediness in women. That's a whole word right there. A whole word. And Diane says, Doc is keeping it real. All right. So Stefan, back to the piece now that you have been raring to respond to. Can you remember what the comment was?
Yes, I saw it before. Mm-hmm. There is this sentiment that women only respond to what men do, as if women are only passive objects in a relationship. So whenever I say something about what a man wants, the response is, how should the man want that without expecting the woman to this and that? It's a circular argument, because if a man responded to everything a woman did to him, there would be no consideration of his past that led him to that point. He's automatically typecast as negative. And so us as men, we are somewhat officially starting from a bad place. Like, we are bad and we need to prove that we are good. And the thing about expectations that Dr. Carpenter said is, like, there's this long list, so even when DJ was reading it out, there's this long list.
Yes.
And if the man misses one, then it's there, him not good. Like, it's like confirmation bias. The one thing that he doesn't have, this is the reason why me not trust man. This is the reason why man not good. You want God, you don't want a man. That's the reality. A lot of women want a God, they don't want a man. And so every time, so to respond to that comment, is there in your mind any possibility that a man can be good and want peace? Discard your experiences. A good man says he wants peace.
Could it be possible?
That's all I want you to consider. Nothing else. I don't want to hear but what if. Because that argument would take us from now till 2 weeks, and I don't think JN could pay us for that. So we need to start from a place of positivity. And when I'm saying that, I'm not saying all men. I'm saying for me specifically, and the men I know, when we say peace, it's automatically implied that we are going to treat the woman right, and this is what we want in return.
Listen, Stefan, I don't think half of the audience was ready, because many have preached the word. That was a strong start. All All right, so let me get some comments. Shafe says, Stefan, very passionate man. And let me see now. Jeline is agreeing. She says, we assume the worst first as women. I hear the point, but I'm going to play negative advocate in a minute, right? Give me 1 minute. Yes, Mr. Stefan, and partners in crime. Don Williams says, I fully support what Dr. Carpenter said. I need more of that. I did a workshop with her years ago. Shout out to Dr. Carpenter. I saw somebody mention that they want something simple. I think it was a man, but women want seriousness. That's another piece of the story as well. Stefan, Deidre, Dr. Carpenter, have you ever, in your anecdotal experiences or in your professional experiences, sat down and thought about why it is that we hear so many negative encounters that women experience at their hands, so to speak, or in relation to men in romantic spaces? Because definitely I've sat and thought about it and said, something not right, something not 100. And in as much as I agree with Stefan that we cannot live there, it doesn't serve us to keep repeating that, perception, because we're going to keep attracting the same things to ourselves. What do you think perhaps might be at the root of some of these? I mean, I feel like there's a pattern, right? If I should interview 10 women right now, I think maybe at least 4.5 of them or 5.5 of them have had experiences that were extremely distressing psychologically, etc., in response to men. And I do take Doc's point that in some ways we are handicapping our women. And Stefan's point about the passivity, I think it's spot on, because in many ways, women almost feel as though I am here to be treated with by a man. So the man is acting on my life. Yeah. Okay. And so that creates desperation. I think it can create a sense of powerlessness. And when people are desperate and powerless, they respond with a lot of emotions, a lot of negative emotions. So as a man, Stefan, what do you think might be at the roots? I mean, it doesn't serve us to stay there, but I think it's worth at least visit it.
There's a simple answer. For example, COVID.
I was ready for that.
Only the people who have been tested can be confirmed to have COVID. It doesn't mean that other people in the population don't have it. The reality is, women talk about their hurt a lot more than men. Societally, we raise our women to talk about their hurt more than men, right? So it doesn't mean that the men aren't hurt. It's just that there are very little spaces for us to talk about this hurt in a real way. Because if he talks about it in this way, he'll probably be really ridiculed by the woman or women, by his friends, probably in family members who tell him he shouldn't go after that the woman is to begin with. And so it doesn't mean that men aren't hurt equally or even more. We just talk about it less. So what you're seeing is really the symptoms of a disease that everyone is affected by, but only few people get tested for it. And that test is that women are allowed to speak about it more.
Deidre, what do you think? Because I feel like Stefan is very slippery tonight, Like he's finding a way out of every one of the possible points to say, you guys need to fix yourselves, right? What do you think, Deidre?
I mean, a lot of men, as Stefan said, they go through things and they suffer in silence because society on a whole, especially for Jamaican men, they state that, you must just be a man, you must just stuff it up and you must suck it up. Whereas us women, we are more emotionally inclined and no, Dr. Carpenter is shaking her head. But
let me give you a hint. Encouraged.
But yeah, so we are the more expressive sex, and so we'll go around and we'll express the hurt a little more. There are some men who will, but for the most part, I see where women will articulate the hurt even more. And I find that a lot of times, the good men, they fall for, this one seemingly good person. And then because of a hurt, that is how they end up becoming the dogs, just from my observation.
Use that one person as the excuse, I must admit.
Huh?
We use that one person as the excuse, I must admit.
Yeah. Right. So, just from my observation, that is what I believe, tends to form that pattern of that kind of stigma where men are concerned in terms of them being dogs and not treating women right and that kind of thing. So,
Dr. Carpenter, I know you and Stefan have had many conversations, you see? So I feel like you are an ally of Stefan, but let me ask you still and see if
No, not always.
Not always.
he's raising some good points, especially on that note of the, you know, the openness of society and certain spaces to receive men's pains as well.
Well, that I do agree with, that we don't have enough opportunities for men to speak about, whether in a way that is very expressive, as Deidre said, because she used the right word there. Women are given more room to be expressive, but we're no more emotional than men. You asked the question, why do we keep going through this cycle? And it seems to me that one of the reasons that we go through the cycle is because it begins in courtship. That old, antiquated word, courtship. So when you're looking at a woman or you're looking at a man, there is this notion that men must spend more than they earn to get the woman's attention. And a man will tell you who he is in the first 2 weeks of dating. He's interviewing for the job of top lover, the one done, and he's telling you who he is. So in the first 2 weeks, he's wearing his heart on his sleeve, and he's telling you everything about himself. The challenge is that women aren't listening in those first 2 weeks. If you go back to the first 2 weeks of your dating with any partner and remember the things he said in front of you or to you, a lot of that is still happening. And then on the other side, women are told you can't be who you really are. You must be fake. You must be false. You must wear the push-up bra. You must wear the push-up panty. You must pad it. You must put on double eyelashes. You must put in the hair. You must put in the nails. Women are told that if you come as fake, you will get the man.
Yeah.
So women pretend to be somebody they're not until they're in a relationship. And men begin by telling you exactly who they are at the beginning. And the woman begins to object to what the man is saying.
Oh, Jesus.
So the man says, boy, my girlfriend, Patsy, you know, Patsy did have tall hair. And the woman says, Patsy? Say like tall hair girl. Patsy is edited out of the conversation. You will never hear about Patsy again. Patsy could be in his bed at night. You will never know.
On the call? No. No correlation, please.
So we actually train our men, who have been trained by their mothers as well to do whatever they're doing, by telling them in the first couple of weeks of dating, when they're spending all this money and pretending to have more than they have. We're telling them what we want to hear. We're telling them what is acceptable. And we're telling them to also be false. And by the time the relationship starts, the hair goes, the boobs go, the bottom goes, the nails goes, the eyelashes go. And a man has learned that he must not mention Patsy, Deborah, Shirley, him sister, him mother and brother. Yes, and he has edited his world to fit into what you say he must be. And neither of you are being honest. We need a lot more honesty a lot earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am really speechless on the platform, but I think I'm struggling a little bit because the truth is overwhelming. I see a particular commenter, Mr. Karim Ellis, just not behaving himself in the comments. Karim said, big up Patsy.
He had a Patsy.
I saw Karen Pine. Karen says that Stefan sounds as though he is emotionally intelligent.
Ooh.
And she says that from her standpoint and experience, this is not a very common thing in men. That is something that Karen holds. And I see some people, I think, agreeing with her. So big up Stefan on that. And let me just get a couple more comments because trust and believe. Michaela asked a very good question. And I think Michaela was on a platform that we shared recently as well. Michaela says, so is it a case where, it keeps sliding down. Is it a case where, if I remember correctly, because I'm not finding it right now. Is it a case where men change after dating, or is it more a case of us being blind or not paying attention?
I think it's a little of both. I think it's a little of both. Men are adjusting during the dating process to fit that thing that is going to be acceptable to you. Because remember, he's interviewing, you know. So if you go for a job and they say, well, how are you at using the computer? And you're really rusty. And you say, oh, they like computer skills. They say, well, you know, I'm a quick learner. I can do certain things on the computer. They say, well, can you do Word? Can you use a word processor? Oh, yes, I've used Word. You know, I had to use it in my last job. No, maybe it's only one letter you write, you know. But all of a sudden,
you're expert.
You're bad on Word, right? It's the same thing because we're human. And all this time, the woman is not paying attention to what he originally said. And I tell you one of those things that I ask women to look out for. When a man tells you he loves women, beware. Because he's telling you the truth. He loves all women. He didn't say he loved you. He said he loves women. All right, Steph. You see, Stefan is going to hide now, right?
That's a major part of the code. That's a major part of the code.
Yes, we'll have to talk the things. That's a red flag. If he says he loves women, red flag. He's being honest with you. And he likes a variety of women. And I've even seen men do that while looking at another woman on a date with a woman. Because, you know, as psychologists, we're people watchers. We watch people a lot. When you hear that one, that's a red flag. Just walk away quietly. Yes?
Dr. Carpenter, that is a code cracking moment.
He likes a specific kind of woman. It means that just about any woman will do. And he's going to find other women to like while he's with you.
Can we all raise our paddles in support of this code cracking moment? On the Day and Circle Life class series on today.
Stefan doesn't like it when I talk the truth.
You put up your paddle, please, because we need to capture this moment as code number 1 cracked wide open. Okay? Thank you very much. Wow, okay then. Exposure 101. All right. Mishka says, even she raising her paddle too. She said, paddle raise. Okay. Somebody ball out Dr. Carpenter and said, mercy Jesus, right? Somebody said, class is in session. That's why you must come and keep coming every week because we have other things on here, right? So we want to kind of tie up this segment because we're segueing nicely into the communication piece of the story because you guys have hit the nail on the head in terms of the honesty and how people speak with their words as well as their actions and auditioning and performing and these things, which in my mind comes a lot neatly under communication, right? But I want to see if we can drop even a couple practical tips, code cracking tips, to, you know, like bite-sized code cracking moments, right? That we can drop in the comments. So, Stefan, you mentioned so many potent things today. I feel like one of the things that you're highlighting is the fact that, first of all, not all men are the same. I feel like you're also saying that it's important to remember that men have experiences that we may not be privy to because of how society, you know, teaches and sends messages to men. What else would you want to add as a kind of, you know, some bite-sized, you know, tips from this segment?
It's a tip for men, not necessarily for women, but stop thinking for women and focus more on being yourself and understanding yourself. You will attract the necessary opposite. But we are raised to, as I said, women are usually viewed as the object. So we are raised to chase after that woman. And we spend so much time chasing after that woman instead of being a man. So that's definitely a tip I wanted to leave for the men out there.
Love it. So pretty much be secure in self. Start there.
Very much so.
Deidre, any tips from you? Any gems, especially as a code packing segment?
Just to say that, you know, pretending is hard. You know, it's so much easier when you're yourself. You don't have to try to putting on, like to come and Zoom like this. It's a whole heap of work. I don't have time for all of that all the time. You know, when there's a need, then, you know, we'll do that. But just be yourself. And I mean, I think the moment that you are yourself and they see like that, then you're able to differentiate who is there to stay and who just wants the, you know, the fluff and the trophy wife kind of vibe. I don't have time for all of that, you know? So I can be both ways. You know, I can be the pop down Deidre, I can be the glammed up Deidre, but at all times I'm going to be true to myself, and you're gonna get truth and honesty at all times. If you can't do that, then it's better you just leave.
Thank you so much, sis. Dr. Carpenter, what would you add to that?
Well, I guess I would say, let me use a tip from a man who shared his litmus test, how he tested a woman to decide if he was going to date her. And I thought it was a very good tip. He decided that he would take women on a long drive to the country to do something active,
Ooh.
which meant that it couldn't be glammed up.
Ooh.
Yes? And if he could have a conversation with you for that 2-hour drive to the country,
I'm back.
do this activity that would mean beach or something, so you have to get wet and you can't do the nails and the hair, and drive back, and you were both comfortable, this is somebody he could date. And that would happen by the 3rd date. And I think it's an excellent way to find out if this is somebody you can manage. So for the women as well, arrange a date that has nothing to do with sex. Arrange a date that isn't a lot of spending. Arrange a date where you go out in your jeans and your t-shirt, your shorts and your top or whatever, and see the man at his real self. See him the way he really is. And lastly, when a man tells you who he is, believe him. Stop trying to pretend he's somebody else. Believe him. If he says he loves women, believe him. If he says he's never been faithful, believe him. If he says he has no ambition, believe him. He's telling you who he is.
Excuse me, I feel like we could charge by the gem for this life class because this is so rich. It's completely off the chain. I'm going to allow an attendee whose hand is raised to come on our stage, so to speak. I'm going to hand you a microphone for you to ask your question. I know that Kevin and Javon are behind the scenes and they're supporting this activity. So let me see. Do you want to select? Let me see whose hands are raised because it's difficult for me. Okay, so we're going to start with Tamika, who I assume had raised her hand first. Okay. So Tamika, welcome to the stage of the JN Life Class Series. Do you have a question that you'd like to share? I believe you are muted. So we're going to unmute you to allow you to ask our panelists what is on your heart. Go ahead, please. I'm officially asking you to unmute. I have to work with the technology. Excuse me. Tamika, are you ready? So we're not hearing Tamika. So we're going to jump down to Rose Miller. Did something just happen? Okay, so Tamika is on now. No, Rose is on, okay. So we're going to Rose. Welcome to the platform, Rose. Good evening and thank you for joining the class. What would you like to ask? Rose, your microphone is muted. Are you able to unmute? So we're not able to. Rose, are you there? I'm not sure if you're seeing on the screen where the microphone is. If you could just press that icon so that we'll be able to hear you. I'm so grateful. All right, so that's not working out. Tamika, are you able to hear? To unmute rather? Not so much. Okay, we're going to have to keep it moving to keep the energy up. So we're going to jump down to Jen Sterling. Jen, welcome to the class. Welcome to the stage. Is there a question that you have that you'd like to share? Go ahead, Jen.
Are you hearing?
Yes.
Hello. Oh, I'm not even dialed up for this.
It's only audio, so you only have the microphone. You're good.
Okay. So you can't see me, right?
No, we can't.
That's good. Anyway, I've been listening and it's very interesting. A lot of things that Dr. Karen said, it is very true. And what I realized now is that we women pay attention or listen more, we would actually won't be in so much of the mess that we find ourselves with men. As Dr. Karen, she said that if a man tell you that he loves women, he really does love women, which is true. With no, I don't know. I've been through some things, but now I'm taking time for me, and I'm realizing a lot of things because I'm listening more. So I can identify these men early, within a week or so. You just have start to have a conversation. You're gonna tell me the first thing you're gonna tell me. Oh, I like you. You can't only identify the physical part of me. You don't ask me anything about me. Oh, I like the way you look. You're sexy. You're beautiful. What do I like? Nothing else. And their conversation are very dull because they don't have anything else to offer. That you know that they're just it's just sex they're offering.
It's one dimensional.
Yeah, and it is very sad. And when I look back, I have to laugh even at myself for some of the things that I put up with. I'm like, really?
It's part of
Really?
the journey.
Can I tell you? And this class is very interesting. I wasn't sure what I was going to expect, what I was expecting when I said, all right, I missed the first one. All right, let me try and log in and see what it's all about.
I'm so glad you did.
I am so glad I did too. Trust me.
Where you joining us from? Are you here in Jamaica?
No, I'm from Jamaica, but I'm in Connecticut now. I'm actually on work. I have a patient, but he's okay. Don't tell anybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, Jen. We appreciate you making the time, even while you're working, to jump in. And I'm glad that you're being benefited. And thank you for sharing vulnerably too about your own journey. I feel like
very much so. Very much so. It's sad and painful, but you live and you learn.
Absolutely. The learning part is the important part. So thank you, Jen.
Yes.
Have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you. And when next class? I need to hear more. I need more.
All right. We're coming up.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
Okay. All right. So Jen has underscored pretty much some of the things that, we have been teasing out. And to segue into the next segment, we're going to have a giveaway. So for those of you who have telephones on the Flow network, this is for you. So check out your phone, please, right? And let's see how fast your fingers are to get one of JN's gifts. So the numbers are you ready? The numbers are 631-885-4818-1227. And I feel like somebody get it. If you get it, just jump in the chat and say, yay. All right? And we're going to keep talking until we get that confirmation, right? So one of the things I want to raise, Doc, Stefan, and Deidre, as it relates to the communication part of it, is honesty. It's not only about telling other people the truth, but also about starting from a place of being honest with yourself. Kimani Graham says, yay, congratulations, Kimani, quick fingers and readiness. I hope you enjoy your gift of $1,000 from $1,000 from JN, all right? So it's important to be honest with yourself. It is important to start from that place, realizing that another person may not choose your situation, your position, your being, and what you bring to the table. And an important piece of it to panelists, and tell me if you agree, is that if we can divorce the concept of value and esteem and worth from people choosing or not choosing to proceed, then I think we do ourselves a huge favor. Because especially as Doc referenced the whole, how we're socialized as from we're girls to have the big expectations. And we're told you have to know how to cook, and them and nook. and we're told that no man no want to back on woman, etc. So much of the choice that the man makes boils down in too many women's minds to, am I worthy? You know, why didn't he choose me? There's some women who spend 30 years harping on that question, why didn't he choose me? And it's so important, therefore, to start from a place of wellness and a place of self-awareness and a place of honesty. And for the other party, as Stefan referenced, to be very much open to the reality that we're not just passive beings. Somebody can make them choice and they're still good and you still good. Just keep it moving, all right? So let's talk a little bit about the communication part of it from that standpoint. And of course, the practical elements now of the differences in how men communicate, some men, and how some women communicate. Why are we talking about this? Because we hear so much of the anecdotes about, oh, the woman them can talk. So, I mean, I have clients who call my phone and them say, either they say Kamala or Miss McWhinney, like she want to talk about the day, she want to talk about all the details, she want to talk about the plans for the future. And sometimes we just come in and we just want to sit down and build, right? So I see Stefan rubbing his beard. I feel like there's a stage moment coming up or a disruptive moment coming up. And then we'll jump over to Deidre and then to Dr. Carpenter about the whole piece of honesty, communicating your own standards and choices, and also about, you know, the practical part of the differences. Anywhere you want to start, feel free.
Well, that point about why the woman can talk, so it's deeper. It's why is this woman talking so much? Because he's actually, chances are, he's gladly listening to another woman talk about the day, or he's gladly telling another woman about his day. The reality is, I don't know if it's evolution or socialization. Men are taught to win. And oftentimes, and it goes back to the dating process. When you've dated and you've gotten the woman, then in the back of the man's mind is, so what else is there to win? What else is there to do? Why am I talking about this? What am I working towards? Am I talking about this leading up to something? Sex? Are we going on a trip? Is it a business idea? What are we having this conversation? What is it leading up to? So so that's the hidden meaning behind it. It's not that woman can talk. No, it's this woman is saying something that I don't want to hear. Asterisk from her, right? And communicate. I tell you, I was talking the truth. And communication is, we always have, silence is part of communication, right? But I think when we hear silence, we insert our own meaning or our own reason into it. So the man is silent and the woman in 20 seconds has come up with 20 reasons why he is silent. Instead of leaving it open-ended and allowing him to fill in the blanks, I guess when he's comfortable or when he has found the words, instead of saying, Jano, you know, say my cheap on me, right? And you formulated, you've given that reason, you've established that reason. You start posting your WhatsApp status talking about know your worth and find a man who deserves you, and you post it and you message your friend in the woman group and say, no, say boy, give me one, this and that. And all that, oh yes, you see, yeah, exactly. And by the time the man has finally come around to say, this is why I was silent, you're definitely not going to apologize, but it's like, oh, now I get it. Until tomorrow when it happens again, right? And so I would say, understand the asterisk, that's 1 point. 2, allow the silence to be open-ended, AKA allow the man to speak for himself and fill in the blank as it relates to what it is he was unable to speak about. Because going back to it, a lot of us are not equipped to talk about things in the language that women want us to talk about. In the way, right? And everyone has a language. Beyond love language, I think that society has given each gender a way to talk about some things. So a man is not going, unlike me, I mean, I've been through this and Dr. Carpenter has coached me a lot. And I am able to identify on the wheel of emotions how I am feeling. Another man might just say, Jano. And Jano means a world of things. Yeah. But the woman sees it as he's being shut down. No, he has told you every single thing in those 2 words. It's you know, like you read a newspaper, that's the lead. But instead of allowing him to fill out this story, you shoot him down already. That's all you can say. Oh man, stay so this and that and the other. So you think he's going to after that emotional abuse, continue this story? No, he's going to tell somebody else, right? So those are some of the realities that men face as it relates to communication.
Listen and listen some more. Brian says, agreed with the comments are coming in so fast. Agreed with the silence part, but not the this woman part. So I feel like maybe Brian is saying that for some men it goes across the board, right? It's not a difference between this woman and the other. It's generally perhaps not having the language, not having the ability to put meanings, into feelings and so on. That may be part of it. So we can disagree. That's part of the beauty of something like this.
And sometimes silence is just that, Sometimes I know for me, my profession is talking to people all day as a lecturer. When I get home, there is a period where I don't even want to hear the clock tick. It's not that something is wrong with me. I just need this time to recalibrate, right? So, and oftentimes if someone asks me what is wrong with me, my mind goes in a spiral wondering, is something really wrong with me? I wonder if something is wrong with me. Should I say something is wrong with me to end the argument here? Yes, I'm going to say something is wrong to end the argument here. So I make up something that is going to appease you so you can say, okay, babe, I understand, and we can move on from this in order to just have this peace and quiet.
Deidre, you're laughing, but please put some words to your laugh. What are you thinking and considering at this time?
I mean, I find that there are some men who, as Stefan said, that Jano, it encapsulates so much. Not every man is able to articulate how they feel and what is going through their mind. Sometimes they need a moment, sometimes they need a couple of days and stuff like that, and then they will get back to it. But a lot of times we want to hear right now, and because we can't hear what happened to you right now, you might find that the nagging comes, with that, or we might get withdrawn because we feel like him don't want to talk to us, But we just have to appreciate that people, men and women communicate differently. I know for me, like if I am upset about something, I don't want to talk about it right away. I kind of just need a moment to myself, because what comes out of my mouth in the moment may not be the nicest, wisest thing to say. So just give me a few and then I'll be good and we can talk, But I find that it really comes down to understanding your partner. So you have to know from the onset, what your partner is like, so that you'll be able to communicate effectively with your partner.
Beautifully said, Deidre. Thank you so much. Dr. Carpenter, what you're saying over there?
I think Deidre has a very good point there. And I knew she would be the one that needs a little time before she speaks. And I like to say that it's not about whether you're male or female. I'd like to say that it's about your personality type. And we all have different personality types. And so I was reading Deidre's personality as we've been talking. And she struck me as a phlegmatic who would hold back a bit, need some time to think, not excessively talkative. Of course, if she's excited and she's hype about something, you're going to get bubbly and enthusiasm, but you're not going to get her talking your ear off. And it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or a man. Human beings have different personalities. There are at least 16 different personality types, and you have to know the components of the person's personality. So when she says you have to get to know your partner, very important. But also we have started off with this false idea that opposites attract.
Ooh.
We are not magnets. Only magnets attract when they're opposite. Human beings attract when they're opposite for a short period, and we call that novelty effect. This is new to you.
Sexy.
Oh, he's so talkative and I'm so quiet, and that's why I like him, because he's outgoing. All of these wonderful, quirky things that you find in the person at the beginning, they're cute for 2 weeks, and then they become annoying. Lord, they talk so much. They can't stop talking. So people who are more alike get along better than people who are not as alike. So the person who understands little silences like Deidre, and like myself. And Stefan was saying, you know, does he have to make up something when he's silent? The person who understands that the silences will leave you alone to thaw out and come back to them energized. I'm thinking just this weekend, we've been under COVID lockdown and we've been in close quarters with all of our family members, etc. And this Sunday morning, I decided I was having the morning to myself. And I didn't say a word to another human being until 1 o'clock. And I wanted to just thank everybody who was in the house for leaving me alone. I wanted to thank everybody for just giving me that half a day to myself so I could be in my thoughts or not in my thoughts or watch some TV, shower when I want to. So it's not a man thing or a woman thing. And I've met plenty of men who talk more than I do. I talk for a living. So like Steph, when I'm finished talking, I just want some quiet. I just want a little quiet time.
And I'm seeing persons underscoring in the comments the absolute importance of understanding your partner. So even if it is, and I do think that there are socialized differences, right? So there may be some men, I believe, I notice I'm using my qualifiers, some men, some women, who may be inclined in one direction or the other. However, they may feel that they're censored, right? Or that they're being penalized by, you know, by social sanctions if they go too talkative as a man, if they use too many feeling words. I believe some people do respond to that and kind of contract in some ways. However, it's not all man you choose to deal with or all woman. You have a partner. So you need your partner to become your research project. Do I know this person? If you don't know them, where are they going? What am I gonna do? You understand? And that now feeds into the piece about spending the time and being intentional about getting to know the other person. And I believe before you can get to know anybody else well, you have to get to know you. And it's the very unsexy truth of relationships. I was about to ask the question. I'll ask it after Stefan comes on. I'll allow you to answer after. But are relationships for everybody? So Mr. Campbell, talk your talk, sir, and then we'll get into that very controversial piece.
It's the word understanding. Oftentimes, understanding is a code for we want the person to respond, react, and act in a way that we feel comfortable, right? Understanding implies that there is something that you don't know and you're trying to get to know more about, right? So sometimes when we say we don't understand man or we don't understand woman, it's because they're not conforming to whatever boxes we place them into, instead of truly trying to understand or figure out who this person is, not as a man or a woman, but as a human being. And that breaks down some of these boxes that we've placed people or significant other in, and you start looking at them as a human being before looking at them as a man or a woman.
Excellent point, Stefan. I love that. And now I want to raise it for the audience and for our panelists to ask the question. Are relationships for everybody? Who qualifies? Who is better equipped or best equipped to say, yeah, man, I'm dating with intention. I want to be with somebody. And Karim says, NO. So I want to hear from the audience as well as my esteemed panelists. What are some of the qualifiers that you think indicate when somebody is in a good space or the best space to say, yo, I'm looking for a wife or a husband? And most importantly, we have to start from somewhere. I'm looking for a partner. I'm looking to be in a space. Yeah? So, Dr. Carpenter, I see you leaning. I know that you can lean.
I'm thinking, and I'm thinking about the fact that, yeah, there are some of us, a small percentage of the population, who are less social than others and really prefer not to be in a romantic relationship with someone else.
That's
but there
okay.
are 8 different types of relationships between a man and a woman and a woman and a man and a man. And we forget that not all relationships are the same. We have some new words now, like situationship. Yes? Okay. So
and the variation of that we can't say on the live class, Doc.
some of us would be better off with a visiting relationship. Some of us are better off with someone living with us 24/7. Others of us are better off with multiple relationships. There's no one size fits all. So while the majority of people want to have social interaction with an other and want to be in a romantic relationship, not everybody wants to be in the same romantic relationship. And we have to respect that.
Absolutely. I love that answer, Dr. Carpenter. Very insightful. And Stefan, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, not everybody. I mean, I think it's not so hard and fast. There are times in your life when I think you just don't want to be in a relationship, or you don't need to be in a relationship. That just might be your entire life. But there's also this concept called being single together, where you understand that there are some things that you're going to share with the other person, but by and large, you're just living your own life, right? And so I agreeing with Dr. Carpenter, there are different types of relationship structures. But oftentimes when we think or talk about relationship, we are just thinking about one, right? And when someone says, I don't want a relationship, the underlying meaning is I don't want the type of relationship you are thinking about or you are talking about, right? But as somebody said in the comments, it's also okay to be single enough, which in and of itself is a relationship with yourself, getting to know yourself, right? And so that's something that a lot of us are afraid of, as if to say being single means that you are less than or less than valuable.
Excellent. Deidre, what say you?
I think we, as a part of getting to know and understand ourselves, we have to remember that, we don't need another person to validate us and to, make us feel any more worthy because we are coupled up or booed up or that kind of thing. We have to go into relationships being whole and, being free from any kind of toxic relationship, baggage that, may have been brought forward. We have to kind of assess ourselves. We kind of have to assess ourselves to know whether or not we're completely whole, from any past hurts so that we don't bring it forward into another relationship. So relationships definitely aren't for everybody because you can't want to come into a relationship where one person has a mindset that, this is going to be whole and this is going to be fruitful and this is going to lead to marriage or whatever, have one set of expectations, and then the other person comes in, just they unknowingly sometimes come in to traumatize the other person, so we'll have to constantly assess ourselves and assess where we are, what we bring to the table to determine whether or not we really are ready to be in a relationship.
Excellent. And that's why we have in class, because we want to make it practical and we want to make it, something that you can more readily draw on to think about it, have resources to think and to plan and to make wise decisions, yeah? But ultimately, whatever decision you make, my only thing personally, Dr. Carpenter, whether you want a situationship or the other one, my thing is do the other person a solid, have the integrity to state upfront what you want. If it is that you're not looking for going to the altar at any point or in the next 2 years, and you do not want the 2.5 children, right? Then be clear on that. And because we're not here to bash any one side of the equation, when the people then tell you what
they don't want it,
listen.
Need to listen and make a decision in response to that. Because sometimes we don't want to hold ourselves accountable for not being chosen. And so we stay in spaces so that we can point the finger and say, the man mash up my life, and the woman make me can't progress. And my question, lovingly as a therapist and coach, then becomes, how did you contribute to this dynamic? What choices did you make? Because you might not be wrong in the true sense of the word. However, you made some decisions and some choices. Staying is a choice. Okay? Deciding that you're stepping out is a choice. Staying and complaining is a choice. All of these things are choices. Yeah? So it's important. I see some very specific questions about the actual dynamics of, verbal communication in the chat. And I'm going to pull up one from Kamisha. Kamisha says, one thing I have noticed with men is that they do not like you asking them the same question more than once. I have a real issue with that. Additionally, some do not like to express themselves. We need to know how they feel. That's what Kamisha says. Jen Sterling says, some men, I think Kamisha, Jen might be saying some men don't listen to their partner. but they go to their co-workers or family members to discuss their partner. Why? Let me just take these two and see if we can tease out some, maybe a theme or some themes, some things to bear in mind related to these things. Who wants to go first? I'm gonna leave it up to you, panelists, this time. I see all of you like, let me think on these things. Let me start off. I feel as though people don't like it when you ask them questions too often, but I know that it can be very, depending on socialization, depending on personality, it could be a gender difference, right? Where men sometimes feel as though by virtue of asking questions, that interrogation can feel like it's a power play. You know, you're trying to manage me. And I know that for some people, and because we're socialized, when men are supposed to be powerful and have autonomy and be leaders even in the relationship space, I can imagine how in some cases it may feel as though you're trying to own me, manage me, and maybe passive aggressively trying to, to lead me and to push me in one direction or another. Yeah, Doc?
Yeah, well, I think one of the challenges that we have in relationships, especially the types where we're together a lot, so in committed relationships, one of the challenges that we have is that we need to watch that line between lover and mother.
Oh.
And when your partner feels that they're being parented, why you're not answering me? Why you won't answer me? Every time I ask you won't answer. What happened to you? Then we're being parent because we're demanding of them a behavior they're not willing to give us. And then we start the mind reading, which Stefan spoke about earlier. You start to decide why the person is not doing what they're doing. But they don't have any obligation to answer you at the time that you want them to answer you. And I have a rule of thumb when it comes to nagging. If you've said something 3 times, you're nagging. And I don't like being nagged either, because men nag. Let's be clear about that. Men nag as well, yes? But we have to learn to remain in that adult-to-adult relationship where you're treating your partner like an adult and you're behaving like an adult, where you're not throwing a tantrum and you're not putting up with your partner's tantrum, where you are not in authority over your partner and your partner is beneath you. When we have respectful, honest, open communication and we say the feeling that we are experiencing, that's communication. But most of us, even when we're open and we're honest and we're respectful, we forget to say how we are feeling about the thing. When you don't answer me, and I've asked you the question several times, I feel ignored and it makes me angry. I really want to settle this right now. It may not be important to you at the moment, but I feel as if, you're really not paying attention to my needs. Would you like to speak about this at another time, or can you give me an answer now? Because perhaps, like Deidre, perhaps they're thinking about it. Perhaps they don't have the answer just off the bat like that. And when they say, I can't talk to you about that now, say, okay, I respect that. When can we speak about this? Can I ask you for an answer tomorrow afternoon? Because I have a decision to make. Simple. One adult speaking to another adult, not a parent, not a child.
Excellent. Excellent. Deidre, anything to add?
Just to say that maybe there are times where, especially for the women, those who may have had difficulties in the past being in relationships, they find a one man or a one man find them. And so the men may do something to offend them and they fear, out of fear of losing out on that relationship, they don't express, the hurt or whatever it is that they're feeling. Which is in and of itself doing more harm than good, because, it's almost like self-inflicting pain, so they don't want to lose this supposed safety of a relationship. And so they don't want to express any kind of hurt or any kind of pain or whatever it is that the partner may say to them. So instead they kind of keep it, bottled up inside. But I believe that, if we openly express whatever it is that we're feeling, it makes for so much more growth. We're adults, so once you can express yourself without feeling as though you're gonna be dismissed as a child, or you're going to be kind of ridiculed or whatever, then it makes for healthier relationships. And at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but I want a healthy relationship, so it really boils down to just finding the guts to really express whatever it is that you're feeling whenever you're at a place where you can express it.
Beautifully said, Deidre. Thank you. Stefan, what are your thoughts on this piece of it?
There's a certain way, so Dr. Carpenter addressed how you respond to certain things, but there's a certain way to ask to get a particular response or favorable response. So saying what's wrong with you is not necessarily the best way, because nothing is inherently wrong with me, right? Or it's easy just to say nothing wrong, I'm good. But a question like, how are you feeling? Even if you get an I don't know, that in and of itself is a valid response. And then you can proceed in the way that Dr. Carpenter said. But even when we are having a discussion, we seldom start with, I feel like this. We start with blame. You did this. And that puts the person on the back leg and they get defensive, man or woman. So instead of saying, I feel like this when you did this, you're leading with your feeling. No one can invalidate. This is my feeling. Instead of blaming the person, because anything after that, they are going to invalidate. As it relates to the question about why a man might feel comfortable talking to his friends or everybody else except you, you need to answer that question.
Sometimes about his partner as well. So
yeah. You need to answer that question. That's not a question that I can answer for all men. Perhaps he feels he's not yet comfortable enough, or he feels like if he shows this part of you, he's going to lose you. And knowing that, telling his friends or family, they can't leave. They're stuck with him, family and friends. The bridging, no matter where you tell a bridging them, they can't say, yeah, I'm no longer friends. But in the structure of the conventional relationship, it's like all your eggs in one basket. So I tell you this bad thing about me, and you're going to leave, and my whole life is going to be in shambles. So that's why I said, usually when we say space, we're talking about the comfort as well for the man to say, this is how I feel, without the fear. And real or perceived, because it doesn't mean that you might actually leave. But perception, as Dr. Carpenter always says, sometimes it's almost it's realer than reality sometimes. So the man's feelings or his thoughts can't be invalidated simply because it's a thought and you are sure that you're not going to leave.
Excellent. Listen, the panel is blazing. So Alec pretty much just summed it up and says it is because they create a safer space. And that is not necessarily or automatically an indictment on the partner. It could just, it could be a set of factors, that maybe are implied, or just maybe the person's experience, which do not mean that you necessarily are doing something wrong.
And Kamala, if I can add, to what both Deidre and Steffon added some very good points. If I could add to that, we make the mistake to believe that because we have sex with someone, we're intimate with them.
Oh,
sex is not intimacy.
Oh, come on now.
And for me to feel safe to speak to you, I need to feel intimate with you. Intimate means into me you see. I'm going to open the door to who I am so that you can see inside.
Absolutely.
That's what intimacy is. And sometimes intimacy is better with a brethren and a workmate and a cousin and a brother and a mother, and not with a sexual partner. Sex doesn't create intimacy. Sex can celebrate intimacy, but it doesn't create it.
And oftentimes we kind of reverse it. We put it the other way, hoping that the physical...
Absolutely. We imagine that because we had sex, we shared bodily fluids, we're as close as two human beings can get, then it must mean that I see you. No, I sex you, but I don't see you.
I think we compartmentalize ourselves. So we give one part of ourselves to one person,
exactly.
another part to
another part to someone else.
And Dr. Carpenter has, in a most flamboyant way, opened up the door for us to segue into our final segment. We are having such a fantabulous conversation, a powerful conversation, a real convo. And I'm seeing persons in the comments saying, wow, one, power, and all these wonderful descriptives of how they're feeling with the truth bombs that are dropping left, right, and center. And I just want to take a moment for us to just have a big up, a shout out to our sponsor. If you could just raise our paddles at this moment to just recognize, I think, the courage and the foresight of JN, the JN Group, in creating this kind of space. Because where else do we go to learn about how to say what, how to talk to bae, how to think about sex? There are not many spaces like this. So we're going big up JN. For the audience, please drop some blue and yellow hearts in the comments if you love what's happening on here. And in that spirit, thank you, panelists. In that same note, I'm going to be doing the hashtag JN Cares giveaway, right? So for those of you, I gave away flow earlier, and so?
Yes.
Okay, so here we go now for the Digi giveaway. So are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? The numbers are 1 5320 8146 0829. And when you get it, just say yay. And thanks to all of you, including Miss Booty and Sandra, for dropping the hearts in the comments, because we love what JN is doing. Somebody says it's such an enriching space. So on that note now, that just kind of eased us into the intimacy part of the conversation, right? Are there differences, panelists, in terms of how either species approaches, prefers this issue of sexual intimacy and commitment? Because I hear it anecdotally in the streets, in the hair salon, in the supermarket, in the sessions, on the social media, right? About, oh, listen, them a man nowadays, they don't want married. None of them don't want to settle down. And when they get old and nobody don't want them, is when them a come knock you down. But babes, you already know after 25 years, right? So I want to provocatively ask the panelists to respond to that. In your estimation, is there any kind of, whether theoretical or any truth at all, to any perceived differences in how either gender responds or prefers this issue of intimacy and commitment? Who want to start off on that very deep topic?
I think, to my mind, intimacy is vulnerability, and if you have to be naked before you can get naked, meaning that naked in the sense where you are so open and vulnerable and all of that, your partner knows everything about you and you feel no sort of inhibitions, that kind of thing. That to me makes for deeper intimacy in the sense of like physical nakedness, because once you can get to that place with your partner where they know everything about you, you're open like that, then it creates a deeper bond. It creates a deeper physical, emotional, spiritual bond, if you will. So that the lines of communication has to remain open, the physical contact, all of that needs to remain open in order for sex to be more than just sex, and to my mind, I've heard, where, men compartmentalize sex, so they would have sex, if they're happy, if they're angry, if they're sad, if they're, whatever it is that they're feeling, that's how they express it. And a lot of times women feel like, Lord, all he wants is just sex, but that is him expressing any kind of hurt, any kind of anger, any kind of frustration, any kind of whatever it is that he's feeling. So it takes a lot for us to understand, each other. And I mean, a lot of classes, take place, from way to school, we're in classes, but a lot of relationship classes are not taught. And so we grow up as adults and we really do understand, how to relate to each other in relationships. So, once we get understanding, I think everyone will be able to, to have a deeper, more intimate sex life. It really goes back to understanding and openness and vulnerability, because, if I can share my pain, if I can share my hurt, if I can share my whatever, with you, then I'm going to want to get closer to you in that way.
Thank you so much, Deidre. And just to highlight this comment by Wendy Freckleton, I think, She says, I really appreciate this session. Out of COVID came good. So big up Jane, life class, right? Dr. Carpenter, intimacy and commitment. How the story go now?
Boy, you're dealing with some big topics here in Kamala.
I'm ambitious, Doc.
Yes, you are. But I'm thinking about what Deidre said, and I don't think that there is any difference between men and women when it comes to those two things. I really don't. Steph made a comment earlier about being one way with one person and reserving a part of yourself for another person. Now, if that's what we mean when we say that men might separate sex and intimacy, women also do that. Here's the big challenge. For every man who cheats, there's a woman. For every man.
I wish I had two of these things.
You know, one, two. For every man who's looking for sex and not intimacy, there's a woman. Most men have sex with women. Most women have sex with men. So there are as many women who are seeking the same things as men. And we are living in that illusion that Stefan spoke about at the beginning. If we fool ourselves into believing that all men or most men or some men only want sex without intimacy, but no women want sex without intimacy. Plenty of women want sex without intimacy, and plenty of women want sex and intimacy. The question is, are we both in the same relationship at the same time?
Wow.
And many people who come to me are in two different relationships.
Listen.
So that's what I think about that one.
Dr. Carpenter, when you said that so a while ago, this one like a mic drop. Let me just drop this on y'all. Like a real boss, right? She said, and so. Stefan, what you saying now, sir?
Like, well, first off, wow. Let me say that one more time. Secondly, yes, I agree, Dr. Carpenter. I don't think there's any difference in genders as it relates to intimacy. The problem is that when we use sex as a marker, sex is like water. You know, when you're thirsty, you drink water, right? But you can also jump in a pool of water to relax your mind. The reality is that one thing has different functions to different people. But we decide sometimes what it means and project that onto the other person. And this person has two options. Play into that projection, AKA, if women think that all men want is sex, there is no need for us to even pretend to want anything more.
Precisely.
And then we are going to approach every woman like that. And 9 out of 10 times it's going to work. So somebody said earlier, if a man approaches them about sex, it's disrespect. Well, at least you know what he wants truly and you can leave. But the reality is just these salon discussions and man only want this and man don't want marriage and all of these things. It's sort of like self-fulfilling prophecy. I have no real need to become anything else because you have framed it in such a way that it benefits us, right? And so, again, if you allow a man to show you what intimacy means to him, chances are you're going to get a lot more than sex. There are men who don't always want sex, but because you typecast him and you put him in this box, he's only going to give you sex and he's not going to give you anything else. And so going back to the compartmentalizing, so he has sex with you, but he tells his hopes and dreams to someone else, right? Good. And on the flip side, women, they share their body with a particular man and they tell all their hopes and dreams to Joe Grind. And Joe Grind walks away feeling good that he knows the woman that this man is with more than this man does. And I'm telling you that based on research. I've interviewed people who share their deepest, darkest secrets with me, a stranger. And when I say, why not tell the person in the other room that you've been with for 5 years? No, I can't do that, right?
Stefan,
and so
you're so right on that. I wish I had 4 paddles. Yes.
Yeah, it's just this space, and I think this space is more valuable than you think, Kamala, because there are very few spaces where we don't start with, I think I saw the other sex stay. And and that I think oftentimes is gospel. So when the person is telling you, as Dr. Campbell, when the person is telling you, women, you don't only listen. I saw a lot of comments saying, listen to the man when he says him love woman. It also means listen to the man when he tells you his hopes and dreams, not just the negative. Listening is about positive and negative. So listen to everything the man has said, and don't neglect or reject some because of your own bias.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and accept every single thing that he has said, and make your decision based on that. But I don't think there's a difference, going back to it, when it comes to intimacy between genders, not from what I've seen or experienced.
All right.
And Steffon made an important point, which well, it's after dark now. I don't think it's after 9, but it may not be as pretty a point to me, but it is a very true point, which is that people tell the person on the outside the things they will not tell the person on the inside. Because with that person, when they're done, they get up, they leave, and the secret is safe there. Also, the reason that this extra engagement is taking place for the most part, for most people, not all people, is because when I go there, I can be a different person. I can be my sexy self. I can be my vulnerable self. I can be my erotic self. I can be my tired self. I can be my joyful self. I can be my playful self. I can be all the selves that you don't want to see because you have decided who I am.
Yes.
Oh. So therefore, it all boils down. It keeps going back to the point of listen. Have the open and honest conversations early in the relationship. Okay? It is important to not shy away from the big topics, as Doc has phrased some of these for tonight. You understand? Because I raised a point somewhere recently that similarly to how we sometimes jump into relationships, sometimes we do it in forming friendships too. We do not allow space for people to tell you and show you who they are without our expectations and our own views and values being superimposed on it. So I want you to be my friend who is my bright friend and my upcoming friend.
Yes.
And so you frame what the person says in that bias. The person never tell you that, but you frame it. You literally pigment the story. You understand? And similarly in relationships, sometimes you meet the person today. Today is what? June what? June 11? June 11. And literally by the end of June, we are bayed up, we are booed up, we are going steady. And you know their first name and last name. You know their birthday by then. I'm not even trying to be funny right now, yeah? You know their zodiac sign, because that's very popular in the streets right now. What sign are you? You don't know what their childhood looked like. You don't know what is their biggest fear. And I mean, these things are not meant to be investigative conversations. Tell me this, tell me that, tell me that. However, it's important to frame the narrative. You don't know what the person is like when it is that they're irritated, because we're still in that performative phase where the makeup is on Deidre, yeah? And as Dr. Carpenter spoke about the push-up panty, I don't even know what that is, but I love it. You understand? The push-up panty and the eyelashes and everything. But we cannot be truly, we don't start to become emotionally naked and psychologically naked with people, but sometimes the physical precedes that, and it creates all sorts of energies and clouds in the space, yeah? As it relates to commitment though, panelists, again, I think you're going to say no, but I'm going to ask for the sake of us. Is there a difference in willingness, openness, timeline for either gender to choose to commit, whether commit in a committed relationship, a monogamous committed relationship, or to commit in terms of taking that step to say we are going to become, we're going to be married. And I want to underscore the point here, somebody raised it in the comments, that I think the space needs to be more inclusive to include LGBTQA, relationships, and I fully agree, yeah? So oftentimes you hear us refer to partners as opposed to making the assumption that we're talking only about men and women, right?
Yes.
So ladies and gentlemen, please speak to me on the commitment piece now. Are men afraid of marriage? Are men raised to be afraid of marriage? Is anybody afraid of marriage right now? Is marriage scary?
And I'm going to jump in and say that I think we have to think about commitment to what. Yes? Women are bearers of children because of our physical selves. So we have the charge of sex being very expensive for us. Sex is a very expensive enterprise for a woman because of the likelihood of a pregnancy, right? She spends most of her life trying not to get pregnant, a huge chunk of time trying not to get pregnant. And for the man, his commitment may be to success. It may be to a home, a car. I hear many men say, I don't want to have a youth until I have the right job, I have my house settled, I have a car, I know I can pay the school fees, can take out an insurance, go for a vacation. Now, of course, most of us don't get all of those things before we have children. But I do hear that conversation more from men, yes? And the conversation I hear from women more when it comes to commitment is, what happens when the children come along? Is he going to be there for me? Is he going to be supportive? Is he going to take part in the chores? Am I going to end up managing on my own? So the commitment story is not so much about this thing of going to a church and getting married. That's the frills. I hear people more talking about the inside workings of the relationship. And then maybe if they can work those things out, then it makes sense to go to a church and get married. But I do hear when we talk about commitment, a lot more sensible conversations than when we talk about love or sex.
So the question for you that you're raising in the Convo Doc is commitment to what?
To what? What are we committing to?
And it may sound very, I don't know, maybe too nitty-gritty, but I am sharing tonight as one of my suggestions for one of our tips to literally ask people, number one, what does love mean to you? When you say love, what does that mean?
Absolutely. When you say love, what do you mean?
Yes.
Very much so. Define that.
Define that for me, right? Number two, when you say you want to be serious, what does it mean for you? Because sometimes panelists, we assume so many things and so many blanks are left. So you may say serious, and the person means that they can leave the toothbrush at your house if they sleep over. That's what they mean by serious.
Precisely.
And I was in a space a couple of years ago, and one of the panelists very openly and bearingly shared the fact that he remembered being in a sexual relationship with a woman, and he was really bothered by the fact that she was leaving things, small things, at his face.
Yes. Many men feel that.
Yes, and one person raised the question, I think, in the audience and said, you're exchanging bodily fluids, but you don't want her to use your cup or share your utensils, right? And it really, I have no judgment. I'm just advocating for clarity. Big conversation, level of clarity. Ask the person, what serious mean to you? For some people, serious is, my name is on your health insurance policy. That's where them reach. Would I marry them? No, but for them, that means serious. Always start a business together, you understand? So don't make any assumptions. Ask the question. Yeah? Stefan, I feel like you have a point. Sense it in my spirit.
A lot of men, especially how marriage is packaged or marketed, is marketed towards it being the woman's day, you know. So the woman is being given away to the man. It's her day. It's the dresses they highlight and all of these things. And so commitment to him sounds like entrapment, right? I'm being caught. You know, they lasso around the neck and she's reining me in, and it's the old ball and chain. All of these things that I absolutely hate to hear, right? Instead of it being freedom, right? And that's something we seldom talk about. For a man, his ideal relationship is a relationship where he can be free. So he's with you, but he's free. That doesn't mean free to have other people. That means free to be himself. So if in that relationship, in that marriage, he has that freedom to talk about his goals and dreams, or to even work with you to build those things, as Dr. Carpenter said, that is an ideal space for a conversation about commitment. We are committed towards building this business, building a house, raising a family, versus just committed to you and me, and there's nothing else. That's the fear, right? That committed means stuck. So even let's get serious. I can just imagine some of my Bridging the Marriage class. What do you be? That was serious. Like we just cool. We just Just relax. Just relax, no man. Just make me see how you go, right? Because it sounds like entrapment, right? And so I think the narrative, as I said, marketed, because it is marketed that way. We need to change how it's marketed, how it's structured, how it's sold, as if all your freedom exists until you get married. I look at it the other way around. You are really in bondage by societal expectations and all of those things. Before you find somebody that you are emotionally open and available with. And me personally, I don't like the sentiment of vulnerable. Vulnerable implies somebody could use something against you. I like open. If you're comfortable with yourself, then it doesn't matter who you tell it to, they can't use it against you, right? And a lot of times men run from commitment because they feel like in that commitment, no, they have to be vulnerable. No, they have to really tell somebody the things that they have not even contended with yet, right? And so there are a lot of things we need to solve even before we get to this bad word, this C word.
You hear Stefan's pitch go up when he said, you have to really tell. I sense discomfort. I'm getting some good feedback in the comments. Tamika and somebody else echoed it above in the comment section, that it's also useful on the journey to seriousness or commitment, whatever you call it, to get to know people in the context of their other spaces. Wow. What is he or she like as a friend? I love that. Mm-hmm. What is he or she like as a member of the football team?
Yes, wow.
When a team members score our own goal upon him, does he cuss them out, bond them out, block them? You understand? The friendship over? All these things are important things to know. If it is that you go to a restaurant and you're having a fantabulous fancy dinner, how does he treat somebody who may be rude? How does he treat somebody who may be asking him for something who can't do anything back for him? Or vice versa. Both parties should be held accountable to that, because these things are telling. So while we're feeling all the flutter in our stomach, right, and we're feeling all the hormones and the neurotransmitters kicking off, it's important to pay attention. Pay attention and do not try to make excuses for nor frame what people are doing. All right, so that's important to bear in mind as well. Deidre, you have something that you want to add? I see you smiling. Oh, your beautiful face over there. Somebody said the flutter is gas. The flutter in the tummy is gas. The audience is having us right alongside with all of you, right? So we spoke about intimacy and commitment, and I want to touch on one more element before we go back to a couple of questions, because we want our audience to leave being expanded and thinking more, especially in this space of relationships. I want to talk about the issue of breakups. Stefan alluded to it earlier in his opening statements, that let us shift this, this thinking that men do not hurt in relationship spaces. It could be, and it's very likely, the reality that they're just not talking about it because there isn't a lot of space created for it. Mm-hmm. But I get the feeling in social, like the salon and the barbershop and so on, that there's this feeling that, man can't manage the heartbreak part, it really, especially if in love in partner, right? That man, it can mash up because it's not perhaps their natural inclination to go as deep. And so when they do and it doesn't work out, then, they are really left reeling. And I want to touch on it even briefly, because in our Jamaican context recently, there has been what I consider to be a mini epidemic of intimate partner violence that has led to several instances, too many instances of murder-suicides, yeah? And so the jealousy, the financial transactional nature of some relationships and the meanings of those things, right? And also how men deal with hurt, and if they have spaces to discuss them, I think are very, very valid points for us to even contemplate briefly in this space. So who want to tackle that big thing now, Doc, of the heartbreak and the fear of loss and these things?
One of the things that we're not schooled in, Deidre mentioned earlier, about this, where do we get this school of relationships? One of the things that we're not schooled in at all is rejection.
Ooh.
We do not learn how to handle someone else's refusal. Mm-hmm. And so we take it as a flaw in our character when someone says to us, not no. You're a great person. We've had a good time, but I don't want to go any further. And so we have to learn, both for men and for women, that everybody has a right of refusal. Everybody has a right of refusal. If you come to JN and you want to open an account and they say, I'm sorry, you can't get a mortgage, you can't do this, you can't do that because you need A, B, or C, you don't throw a tantrum on the floor and you don't threaten the agent who's speaking to you and you don't stalk them and you don't do all the things we think we have a right to do in relationships. We have to learn that everybody has a right to say no. We're not everybody's cup of tea. And there's 7 billion people on the planet. You will find someone else.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I love that. Stefan?
Well, adding to what Dr. Carpenter said, well, a lot of us men have not been taught rejection, but a lot of us men have also have not been taught to view women as human beings, objects to be had. So this person who I own has rejected me. It's far worse. This person is not supposed to have a mind of her own. Is not supposed to be strong enough to leave me. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And if you're going back to Freud, you know, like a young boy and his toy, you are this thing that I need to own and possess. How dare you leave, right? And so it's a lot heavier. It's a lot heavier like that. Fear, not being able to deal with rejection, but in addition to that, not being able to deal with rejection from this woman. Plus, a lot of our masculinities are defined by how many women or the validation. Precisely. And so if I lose women or I lose this woman, it is a reflection of not being man enough, not being good enough as a man. And so even as my PhD topic is looking at suicide among men, some people wonder, like, why is it easier for a man to die by suicide? It's not that it's easier. It's just at the time, in the moment, it's a much better solution than the alternative, not being a man, right? So not being alive, ironically, is better than not being a man, because this is what you have to live with, right? And so it's my generation and the generations before, there have been improvements, but things like these, forums like these, changes in my generation to the next generation is the only way it can be improved. Plus, Kamala, even the way we talk about it, if men die every day, oftentimes the only thing that makes the news is when the man kills a woman. And so the man says, if my life is not worth it, or my life is only worth it in the context of a woman losing her life, then y'all are going to listen to me.
Wow.
And oftentimes it's detrimental and it comes to that point. But if I scream and I shout and I tell you I'm going through this as a man, and I kill another man, fine, no problem. But you're going to listen to me now because, oh my gosh, what is this society coming to? Man, I kill woman, right? And so I'm not saying it's justified, but in the inner workings or the psyche of the man, and this is how things are going to change. Understanding that these things are very, very real possibilities, and we can't overlook or shun it, because as you said, these are things that are happening. They are terrifying, but then there needs to be spaces like these to learn the truth.
And if I could jump back in just now, Kamala, one of the things that we have to, as a society, because there are other societies that are not like ours, there are other societies where there's an equitable trade between men and women, where men and women are treated equally. And in the societies where there's more gender equity, there's greater happiness. The happiest country on the planet at the moment is Denmark, and its laws allow for men and women to be treated equally, emotionally, socially, and psychologically. One of the inequities for men, one of the things that's not equal for men, is that men's masculinity is judged by others. It's judged on the outside. So when that woman leaves him, he fears as well how others will view him. What kind of man are you? Is a question a man is constantly asking himself. When a man leaves a woman, she goes to her girlfriends, her family, etc., and they say he was never a good man anyway.
Run the boy.
You understand me? It's not about you, sweetheart. You're a beautiful woman. Look at you. Look at what you bring to the table. You're so special. You're so wonderful. But when the woman leaves a man, what kind of man are you? Is the question asked.
Listen, that piece about the possible meaning, Stefan, and I love that you use the term possible, because in this series and in every space I try to show up to, and I know for many of you it's the same, I want to leave looking at things from a different perspective. I don't have to agree, but I love to leave a space having been expanded. And so just to hear it so beautifully expressed just now, I'm deeply moved by it, because I have a soft spot in my heart for really doing something about this epidemic. And I know that the roots are very deep. And so again, we must give thanks for a space like this where we can talk about it, you know what I mean? And we can start to be a part of the solution. Because the reality is, and Deidre, I'm coming to you, the reality is that sometimes too, you know, and I'm not always applauded for this view, but sometimes too, when the women complain about the men being trash and the men being this and the men being dogs, I sometimes believe that we as women, especially in the capacity of single motherhood, sometimes contribute to our own affectation. In that, we are sometimes replaying cycles of pain in terms of how we are raising boys. And you hinted at it earlier when you mentioned that sometimes as nurturers, the thinking is, oh, let me do this for him. You know, let me excuse this. Let me be overly parenting in this capacity. And so sometimes we cripple boys and we do not teach them responsibility for their actions. And sometimes even the women are the ones telling the boys, we are ball for their girl. And that cycle just keeps going over and over again. And that's why I'm passionate about spaces like these, because if we can interrupt the cycles, I believe that we can gradually start to see changes in our spaces, yeah? So Deidre, from the parenting perspective, do you agree that there is so much power in the narratives that are framed even in your own house, in your living room, and for its implications for the next generation, and for somebody else's daughter and somebody else's son too, yeah?
You know, I try as much as possible to have the mindset that, you know, who I'm raising is going to, whatever it is that I do is making an impact in her life, and it is going to shape her mindset, her whole, you know, behavior as an adolescent, as an adult. And so, you know, I have to be careful of the things that I say and that I do around her. You know, it's that much harder when it's one parent, you know, but you know, because you don't really have that balance. But you know, it's really important to shape the narrative, to, you know, ensure that she comes out to be, you know, a person who knows how to handle herself, and, you know, knows how to effectively function, you know, in relationships, in just life, you know, in general. But yeah.
Yeah, there's so much power. And I know that it also comes with a great responsibility and maybe some burdens in some spaces too, but it's important. And I saw somebody in the comment section just reference the fact that these conversations, panelists, are needed in the schools. Because one of the reasons I wake up very often and do things like these is because I came across, well, a particular quote I came across helped me to frame my passion. And it said that so many years of schooling, yet no one taught us how to love or be loved.
True.
I set my soul on fire because it is so true. Yes, Stefan, tambourine on that one, for real. Yes. You know, who teaches us how to communicate? Who teaches us how to be tender? Who teaches us how to be vulnerable and how to manage reflection? So JN Group, hint, hint, wink, wink.
That's the next challenge.
And clearly you have some very able panelists and resources right here, okay? Now, we are at 8:29 p.m. We could talk all night, but we have to wrap it up. And we have to keep you a little bit thirsty, yeah, for more?
Yes, that's true.
So, for those whose questions were not taken, you know, don't sweat it. The conversations will continue in some way, shape, or form. And Stacey and Thompson is using one of my phrases, which Brian gave to me. JN, big up on the blooming self, right? I don't just bloom, but the blooming. So big up on the blooming self, right? Because we love this and it's so valuable. We're now going to have our final giveaway for the evening. Yeah. I'm going to ask the first person. I'm going to ask Dr. Carpenter to be the judge of this section because
Again, Kamala?
I'm going to have the final giveaway for this evening, and I'm going to ask you to be the judge of this section, just because I'm picking on you, because I love you, right? So the prize for this particular giveaway is a wellness box curated by my company, White Lotus Blooms, and it's a box that has a lot of goodies. It's a beautiful wooden box, and you get things that facilitate your self-care, okay? And so we're going to give that to one person this evening. And what you need to do to win it is to tell us in the comment section, and the first person whose response says, I love this one, or this one is a good one, tell us what change or changes. Let's focus on one. What change have you felt empowered to make in your thinking or actions in the relationship space coming out of the life class? Dr. Carpenter, over to you, sis.
Well, I think, was it Shane Bloomfield was the first one, listening more.
But yes, but you, okay, so we're keeping it simple. Shafe Bloomfield, you have won yourself fantastic, elegant, and a rich wellness box from White Lotus Blooms Communication, from White Lotus Blooms Wellness Services.
I think we need about 4 gifts to win, Kamala.
Don't mix your Dr. Carpenter, please.
Keller Marshall, acceptance of others' personalities and abilities. That's a good one.
We only have one box that we can do tonight. So for those of you who may not have one this evening, we're inviting you to come back when? Next week, Wednesday. At what time? 6:30 p.m. Jamaica time. That's CST time, right? And you have a chance to win a box again next week and for the next 3 weeks, because it's a 7-part series so far, right? So you have a chance to win again next week. Next week's topic, yes, you have to register. Next week's topic is managing relationships during this new normal space. You don't want to miss it. Some people stress, they can't take the whole for talking, right? They're hiding in the bathroom for too long, they can't deal. How do we manage the polarities of our compatibilities under these close quarter conditions, all right? And before we say goodbye, can I ask my beautiful panelists to let us do a wave?
Yes.
All right, so I know maybe the waving might blur the camera, so it's slow, right? Just to salute the JN group for this awesome space, which is the JN Circle Thrive Together Life Class Series. And Brian says, big up for the Blooming Self panelists. Good job, everybody. I want to thank the team behind the scenes, Kevin and Javon, and Celia, who has been dropping the gems in the chat, so you can look at them and just, visualize them. I want to thank you guys for your awesome service week after week. I want to thank the entire production team, and I want to thank Dr. Karen Carpenter, one of my faves, and she knows it.
Well, it's a mutual admiration club.
Oh, thank you, Doc. Deidre-Ann Thompson, who accepted this invitation with a little bit of shaking, but she did so well. Yes. And we hope to hear you again, Miss Deidre. And to Stefan Campbell, who is proving himself to be quite a prophet in the space, right? We want to thank all of you for saying yes. And I think it was an awesome session. Tamika Booty agrees. And next week, Wednesday, please just go to the JN Group's Facebook page, where you can access the tips from the takeaways from today's session, as well as information about the future session. So you can register there. So you can go to myjncircle.com/thrive to register and come back next week and the week after and the week after that as well. For those of you on here who may need individual therapeutic services, the JN Group, in its great generosity, has a service where you can access counseling for its members, though. You have to be a member, right? Through one of their counseling partners. So reach out to the team and get more information on that. And we're hearing so many enriching and great sessions, so much great feedback, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, we're going to share the results of our poll, of our post-session poll, to see how the session made an impact. and to get a sense of how you're feeling as we're saying goodbye for this evening. Team, are we ready with the poll? Are we ready? Any final words from the panelists as we are about to wrap it all up? Doc, let me start with you. Any final gems, any final thank yous, and final thoughts?
For Venus and Mars to get along, which is where we began, for Venus and Mars to get along, the people on Venus, when they make their list of what they want, they have to become what they want in order to attract the right Martian. Oh, okay.
Make that a tweet ago. Listen. I'm speechless. Dr. Carpenter, that's a whole life class by itself, Dr. Carpenter.
Okay.
You know that, right? Becoming what you desire.
Precisely. Precisely. Mm-hmm.
Deidre-Ann, any final gems, any final thoughts as we leave our panelists or audience this evening?
Just to say that, Venus and Mars are not worlds apart as we think. When we collide, there may be some shaking, but I think we have we're on our way to, a greater understanding of each other's worlds, and it's just for us to plan it out, plan it out to work together, in this world that we're trying to grow.
Excellent. Yeah, we're trying to grow it, Deidre. We are. Thank you very much. Stefan, final words.
If you're on Venus or you're on Mars, I recommend that you understand your own world before venturing off that planet.
Well done.
They're just nice. Thank you so much. Are you not panelists, attendees or family in the section here? Are you able to see the poll? Has it been launched? Because we want to get your feedback. Okay, not seen yet. Awesome points. Thank you so much. All right. And if there was any particular piece of this evening's conversation that you'd want to be continued in terms of, more information on a particular segment, communication or love needs or commitment, which one of those do you think you'd want more information from? About, so that's a question for the audience. What do you want to hear more on as it relates to relationships? Michaela says communication. Barb says communication. So we're getting how to handle rejection, says Tamika. Excellent one. We need more on that one for sure. Nadine says communication and love needs. More on effective communication. Listen, Shade says communication. People need to know how to talk to Bay, how not to talk to Bay, correct? Pilar says rejection. Jen Sterling says know thyself, how to really compromise, rejection, managing expectations. I love it. And you guys are so awesome for staying all the way to the end. Thank you so much. I'm seeking the confirmation about the poll from my team. I'm not sure if we're having some technical challenges. Rose Miller says how to be whole before venturing out. So Dr. Carpenter will drop it like it's hot, but the actual how to, what's the journey like to become a more whole person? Yeah. I get asked questions like, how do you develop self-worth? That's such a very, to me, I never thought of teasing it out, but people want to know. And here we have it. Thank you, Kevin and Javon. We are checking, the poll is launched now. And so we'll be getting the responses in a few minutes, in a few seconds rather. A very interesting one here in terms of a request for continued content. Georgia says forgiveness. That is such a very powerful thing also, because after we're talking about the healing and so on, letting go and moving forward is an important piece of the puzzle as well. So thank you very much for that, Georgia Morrison. Just a couple more seconds before we're able to share the comments. While we're on that though, Doc, let's see if we can squeeze in a quick question for one of you. People talking about the differences in being talkative and their partner not being talkative. Do we have any practical tips for how we can manage those differences in personality types?
Well, I think that perhaps we rely on our partners too much sometimes for that communicative exercise. It doesn't have to be a partner that is a person that you're speaking to. If you feel that you're a more expressive person, you need more social interaction, you're more of an extrovert, then you may need to have some good friends or family members who you can reach out to more. And I would also caution that if you think that your partner is a quiet one and you're the talkative one, sometimes you're going to have to look at how much time you're spending talking if it's time away from the partner. Don't be uncomfortable with silences. I think Stefan said it earlier. Silence is a way of expressing something as well. So don't be uncomfortable when your partner is silent. You can sit and be silent and still have a good time.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Doc. And I think our team will be ready to share the polls now. All right. Oh, not quite yet. All right. People are still responding. Stefan, what Doc just said kind of referenced this issue of having a friend circle to begin with. And I think sometimes Deidre, people make the mistakes of thinking, oh, I found him, I found her. Don't call the phone. Best friend, later for you. Okay, I'll speak on the weekends. And sometimes it's when when the rubber meets the road that they're like, oh, I need somebody to really vent on. Stefan, talk to us about managing that part of it, please.
Yeah, because we usually think that the intimate relationship, however you define that, should replace everything and everyone else in our life, right? And oftentimes it's not the silence we're afraid of. We're afraid of those thoughts that come in silence, the insecurities. You are forced to think. So usually you just want somebody to fill the dead air, not necessarily an engaging conversation. You want somebody to fill the gap. I remember in high school, this was the bane of my existence. Every time I'm on the phone with a girl and I go silent, so why are you not talking? Ask me something now. Say something now. And you know what that does to me? I shut down even more because I am nobody's dancing monkey. I'm not here to entertain you. If this is not a telephone interview, I'm not a telemarketer, right? And so, yes, you need to understand why you have such a problem with silence. You don't have a problem with me, you have a problem with silence and what you think it means. And yeah, you need to either be whole in yourself and in your own mind, or you need to understand that I am not the only person in your life that you should be speaking to. Tell people all the time, I don't want to be the center of anybody's universe. Ironically, talking about planets, but I don't want to be the center of anyone's universe. I want to be part of it. I want to exist in that solar system. I'm not trying to be a sun. I am not trying to be a sun. S-O-N or S-U-N. I cannot fill that role at all.
Dr. Stefan? Mr. Stefan, listen, you've earned your coins tonight, sir, right? Because it's all just very lit, right? And as a final quote before I share the poll, can we just remember this thing I came across, that we need to want to spend the rest of our lives with ourselves first.
Oh.
And we also need to find a space in which we're so comfortable with ourselves that we are not looking for people to fill the space. Don't be afraid of being solitary. Otherwise, we're going to be using people to entertain and to stimulate us.
Yep.
It all goes back to each of us. Thank you, panelists. Let's check the polls and see how the people are feeling right now. So how would you describe your current mood? Are you seeing it, ladies and gents? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
You're seeing it?
Have to click view poll results. Yeah.
Okay. So question 1, how would you describe your current mood? 52% of you are okay. 39% of you are happy. And I'm going to scroll down to the last one. This class was helpful. 94% of you said yes, 4% of you said sort of, and 1 respondent said no. So I think that's a huge success. And I want to thank all of you who made this possible. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the week, and hopefully we'll see all of you back here next week, Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Register and join and bring a friend or 5. Have a great one, and thank you for joining us, panelists. Much love. Talk again soon.
And J&N all the way.
J all the way. Awesome. Thanks again. Oh, one more thing. Tamika Booty has a recommendation. JN, she says, I think these classes need to be advertised more widely. More people need to know about this content. Big ups, big ups. So we're going to work on it, and please, you help us to advertise it as well, Budi. Thank you so much, guys, and have a good one.
Take care.